What? Child. Anyway, so
this video was supposed to be filmed, recorded, edited, and posted like 3 days ago. But I'm also working on a book right now, and whenever inspiration strikes for that, everything else in my life just falls to the wayside. Like, my life could be crumbling in shambles, but as long as we hit our word goal today, that'll be fine. So that's number one. Number two, my fan is blowing. My fan is on because it's hot. I've been saying this for the past 5 videos. It is terribly hot, and if you can see the perspiration on my upper lip, just act like you don't see it. Pretend for the both of us. Thank you. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about parasocial relationships. That's not even an exaggerated sigh, because I'm just so sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing so many wrong takes, especially on twitter.com, that I'm just gonna say my piece once and for all and let it be that. And hopefully I never have to talk about this again. I exist on Twitter, and every 3 to 5 business days, somebody will find a word. I don't know where it originates from, but somebody will find a word, and that'll be, y'all will wear that word out till kingdom come. And the worst thing is, y'all don't even know the definition of the word. And maybe it's just my fear of looking stupid in front of people, and it's my fear of like I just don't like saying things without knowing what I'm talking about. That would never have me looking like some of you look on Twitter when you use these words and they don't make sense in context, but it could never be me. I see this happening with feminism a lot. People are trying to get off their tweets about feminism and trying to discuss feminism in 260 characters or less, and I'm just like, that is not what feminism means, and there's no way that you can encapsulate this thought into 300 characters or less. But that's my opinion. I don't like speaking on things that I don't know, and that's not to say that I know everything, but a quick Google search will suffice. I did like 2 separate Google searches for this video, but usually that'll do it. But I exist in fandoms. If you count anime, it's 2, but like primarily I exist in one fandom, and things that I hear all of the times, or things that I read all of the time, it's like, why are you defending these people who don't know you exist? They could see you on the road, and you could be dying on the road, and then they wouldn't care. Do you know that these people aren't going to fuck you, right? Let's unpack that last statement, because that last statement has a little extra like flair, has an extra little spice of misogyny in there, and I don't even know why. I know why, because I did research, but we're gonna get to it. But first of all, these comments aren't directed towards male-dominated things or male-dominated fandoms, because we see how they act, for one. And number two, why are you assuming everybody's sexuality? And another thing that I saw that pissed me off is just like, these parasocial relationships are like, they're ruining young, impressionable girls. And I'm just like, I didn't know that young girls are the only ones that were impressionable. So fuck all of you. That is what I wanted to say on that. There's gonna be like 2-ish parts to this video. So the first one is just gonna be sharing some things that I found on parasocial relationships and the research that has been conducted on them. So that's like fact, that's like written down. And the last part of the video is going to be my thoughts. And I'm going to postulate a theory that I haven't seen anywhere, because I was in the trenches of google.com. I was on like page 20, and I didn't see anybody write about the thing that I was thinking about, which could just mean that it's a bad idea. But I'll tell you that this is like where my theory comes in, so you don't think that like it's all one big research. So I'm gonna start with, what is a parasocial relationship? And this introduction is taken from Oxford Libraries. It's from a book by Gail Stever, and the book is called Parasocial Theory in Communication, and the introduction reads as follows. So, Parasocial theory is an area of inquiry that has been principally pursued in communication studies, although work in psychology, sociology, and related disciplines has been done as well. The concept originated in 1956 with the article Mass Communication and Parasocial Interaction. I'll link it down below. It's a really good article by Donald Horton and Richard Wall, wherein the author suggested that television specifically, but also media in general, had put people in contact with those who were previously unknown and unknowable before the existence of visual media. Celebrities / famous people had existed before television, but what changed with the advent of televisions in the living rooms of people's homes was that now it was possible to have a parasocial interaction in a face-to-face way with someone whose image and personality had invaded the privacy of one's home. So I think one of the main takeaways of this, and this is my opinion we're getting into, humans are social animals. I think it was Aristotle. He either said that humans are social animals or humans are political animals. I think he said both. But we're hardwired to seek social interaction. If you take it back from time, we've always existed within groups. So it makes sense with the advent of new technology such as like radio and television, which is like what this study was primarily focused on. It makes sense that we would want to have an interaction or have a relationship with the people that we see behind our screens, right? And this is the thing. Parasocial relationships are completely normal in and of itself. They're not inherently bad, and that's something that I kept seeing when I like typed in YouTube videos about this. Like, people are like, oh my gosh, parasocial relationships. I'm like, calm down. If you exist as a person in 2021, you've had a parasocial relationship before. The intensity might be different, but the way that people are acting like, oh my god, parasocial relationship, oh no. And I think the thing that we need to understand about social sciences is that it's an effort to understand what's already there. So these two guys, with the advent of all of this technology, they were probably sitting down like, hey, like, why is it that people feel closely connected to people that they only see like in front of a screen, or it's only it's not face-to-face communication? They postulated a theory based on that. So it's not some like new phenomena that we can't explain why it's happening. The medium has changed because they were studying radio and television. I bet like in their wildest dreams, I don't think they could have ever envisioned that social media is the way that it is now, or that we'd be connected in the way that we are. But yeah, it's just like, I just wanted to bring that up because people will go on and on about, oh my gosh, parasocial relationships, guys. It's completely normal, and it manifests itself. What is that? It's completely normal, and it manifests itself in different ways, but the interaction itself, there's nothing inherently bad about it. So I wanted to get that out of the way. This next part that I'm going to be referencing is a paper from Communication Research Trends called Parasocial Interactions and Relationship with Media Characters, an inventory of 60 years of research, and is written by Nicole Liebers and Holger Schramm. My Dutch came out a little bit there. So what's interesting about this research, it says like 60 years, but and this research ended, this paper is published in 2015, so there's probably more information, but I couldn't find like an accurate paper that discussed all of the research, so I just got this one. What's interesting is that even though the term was coined in 1956, there was no research up until the 70s done. And my theory as to why that could have happened is that there was like a lull in technological advancement. Like, you can't, yeah, they postulated this theory, but like you can't really research it unless there's more and more technology coming out, or it's more and more widely available. So I think that could have been why research was stalled for such a long time. So now I am going to read an excerpt from this paper. So the term parasocial interaction describes a one-sided mediated form of social interaction between the audience and media characters. In doing so, they assume parasocial interaction to be similar to face-to-face interactions between two individuals, except that parasocial interaction lacks mutuality, while real social interactions feature bidirectional communication. And we know this is like the general term for a parasocial relationship being a one-sided relationship, right? by assuming not only interaction during reception, but also a long-term relation between media characters and the audience, researchers expanded the concept of parasocial interaction to parasocial relationship. Whereas, by definition, parasocial interaction limits itself to the interaction between a media character and the audience, and can therefore only take place during the media reception, parasocial relationship extends this limit and leads to or encompasses cross-situational relationships between the audience and media characters. That was a lot, but I wanted everybody to know where I am going to take this interpretation from. So let's take movies as an example. I wrote down Endgame. When I was watching Endgame, first of all, if you haven't watched Endgame, there's nothing I can do for you at this point. Leave this video, watch it, and then come back. So at the end of Endgame, Tony Stark dies. I did not know that I had such a relationship to Tony Stark until the man died in front of me. And talk all you want, I don't care. Say what you want about Mr. Tony Stark, but I cried when that man died. Yes, I did. I cried at his funeral too. That would be considered a parasocial interaction, because while I'm in the movie theater, see, nobody ever calls me. While I'm in the movie theater, I'm experiencing what the writers want me to experience, right? I'm having this interaction with this fictional character, this media character who is right in front of me. So that is a parasocial interaction. The parasocial relationship starts when I was on the train with my friend and I was still in shambles about this man's death. So I hope that that makes sense. A parasocial interaction is you engaging with the media content in front of you. So, for example, people who are watching this video, you're in a parasocial interaction with me, but when you leave this video and then you decide to talk about what I've talked about, or you talk about me in some other way, shape, or form, that would be a parasocial relationship, because you're engaging with me outside of this form of media that we're engaged in. I hope that makes sense. Some people use them interchangeably. A lot of the research that I've seen kind of tend to use them interchangeably, and some of the videos that I've seen use them interchangeably, but that's inherently what they are. Going back to the article, it says, unlike parasocial interactions, parasocial relationships, much like real social relationships, endure beyond a single reception and develop into a long-term relationship between a media user and a media character. This relationship between a media character and a media user, in turn, for example, ends when a media character on a TV series dies, and researchers call this a parasocial breakup. And we have these all of the time. Like, I'm about to hit the end of the Demon Slayer manga, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And like, you still hear people complain about Friends ending and like their favorite TV shows ending, so that's not really necessarily new here. But what I wanted to do with like pointing out like these articles is just to give like a frame of reference so that we're all on the same page here. And I also wanted to point out a couple of things, and you can double check these numbers because I'll leave the link for the research in the description box. So in the article that I just quoted, they went through studies of parasocial relationships, and in doing so, they realized that the studies are highly gendered. I wonder why. So only 17.6% have a balance of male and female participants, while 43.6% have a surplus of female participants, with only 7.5% having a surplus of male participants, while 20% was unclear. But I'll just like chalk that up to like people identifying as non-binary. So I think that this is very funny. Well, not funny, but I think it's insightful, because when people talk about parasocial relationships, they only talk about, as I said before, female dominated things. And this is why the research that's out, the data is mostly done on women, so there's not an accurate representation of what's going on here. And the second point I think is important to point out from this research is that most of it has been done on film and television. And I'm not saying that research can't be expanded to fit different things, but it's worthy to note that most of the research that has been done so far, it's on film and TV, and these are prime candidates for one-sided relationships. So now we're getting into the second part where I just like talk shit. Now that we've gotten all the textbooky stuff out of the way, this is my interpretation and a few points that I just wanted to point out. Parasocial relationships are not new. They've been around forever. I was watching this one video and these people are like, oh my gosh, in the past like 5 years, like parasocial relationships are just taking over our lives. No, it's not. It's existing in a new format. It's existing over social media, and we don't know how to categorize or describe like the mass of what's going on right now. We're still in the thick of it because in the grand scheme of things, social media hasn't been around long enough for researchers to actually research what's going on here, but they're not inherently new. When I was a little kid going to school, and my mom would take me to school, she would always listen to the same radio station because she was like, I want to hear what this man has to say about such and such and such, about the news or something. And I was just like, she was in a parasocial relationship with that man. It might not have been as strong, but it was there. Number two, it's not the big evil that people make it out to be. One of the reasons I think that people have this view is that they don't have an understanding of what a parasocial relationship is, and they don't have that foundation that, hey, this is normal. Most types of media require you to engage in a parasocial relationship of some sort. If you go to a movie, so like let's say I go to a movie and I did not cry at Tony Stark dying, those writers failed. They failed to get me to engage within their movie. It's their literal job to have you care about a character. So for example, I'm watching Shadowhunters right now. I'm planning to make a video about Shadowhunters. I don't care about anybody on that show, maybe except for Simon and Alec and Magnus. But I don't care, and that means that the writers have failed. Joanne, that woman is a horrible woman, but people like Harry Potter. People are invested in those characters. She did something right. She doesn't do a lot of things right, but she did that one thing right. I don't see it. Harry Potter's not for me, but she has managed to capture the attention of a lot of people who actually care about these characters. So that is a parasocial relationship. It's not as weird as people try to make it out to be. Game of Thrones, I know everybody was crying at the end of Game of Thrones when everybody died, and ooh, I mean, if you haven't seen it, I don't even watch Game of Thrones, but I knew that. But that is a parasocial relationship. And now here comes my thesis. I think this is like the part where most people would disagree with me on. This is my thesis for this video, and I wrote it down because I wanted to get it right when I said it. So I wrote down, in 2021, I don't think parasocial relationships between viewers and influencers and or traditional celebrities exist in the same context that it did in 1956, and that's a given because the nature of relationships change all of the time. I hope that made sense. So that's a given. People change relationships all the time, and the meanings and the definitions of relationships change all of the time. But I think that people are grasping onto this 1956 definition that was done at the time, and that's great and everything. But I don't think it's evolved to the point where we are now because there hasn't been that much research on it. So that's the first part of my argument, but I feel like there needs to be like an asterisk to the original definition of a parasocial relationship, right? So for example, Billy Bob Joel. I don't know why I chose Billy Bob Joel, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. Billy Bob Joel in 1956 has people that listen to his radio program, and he has people that love his radio program, right? And there might be a group of friends that listen to Billy Bob Joel together and they create an identity based on that. But Billy Bob Joel's fans around the world, they don't have a global identity and they don't exist as a collective. With the advent of social media, the individual you kind of doesn't exist anymore. And I'm not saying that you're not special and unique in all the ways, because I'm pretty sure that you are. I'm sure that you're amazing. But when we exist in these spaces, we become a collective you. And to say that, oh, the people who you stand with, the people who you care about, don't care about you, or they don't care if you would be dying on the street. I think that's kind of wrong, because at this point we're not existing as the individual you anymore. We're existing as a collective. We're existing as a group of people. So BTS might not know that Gabby sits in her room and films YouTube videos, but being an army, having that marker on me or having that tag, it comes with like a few things that they would know about you. So I think the original definition, with like the way that technology has expanded, the way that we communicate with each other, I think it needs to have like an asterisk just like tacked on there.
So I do want to make clear that I do think that there are negative and positive parasocial relationships, because I realize that this video can come off as me defending them, which I am, but just like any relationship in your life, there are negatives and there are positives. Maybe I'll do a video on that, but I just want to dispel this thing that I see going on, that parasocial relationships are inherently negative. So for example, I said it before, but I have a very, very positive quote unquote parasocial relationship with BTS. Like, there is nothing negative about that in my eyes. So I just wanted to make that point clear.
This is my last point before I go, because I can already hear people saying people online don't know boundaries, people online are crazy, people online are this, people are, and I agree with you. But I also think that it's not just people online, because I think we need to come to an understanding that people online also exist offline. And I'm not gonna get into my philosophy about people. I don't think that people are inherently good. I think that we need to make decisions every day that like shape the kind of person that we want to become. So if you're already a horrible person in real life, then guess what? You are going to be a horrible person on Twitter as well. If you lack boundaries, or if you don't know how to understand boundaries within your personal relationships, you are going to get online and not understand the boundaries of other people online either, because that's just the kind of person you are.
And I also wanted to add that all of these characteristics are inherently exacerbated by the fact that we're online and there is this level of anonymity that gives people the courage to do and or say things that they wouldn't have otherwise said. And this literally happens everywhere, on every corner of the internet. So can we just please stop perpetuating this stereotype about parasocial relationships and stan Twitter? Just stop. We all have a parasocial relationship of some kind.
So I think my cap for this video, what I want to leave everybody with, is that parasocial relationships are not inherently bad. They are a type of relationship just like all other relationships, and with all other relationships, people lack boundaries, and we're just going to have to remind people to set those boundaries in place. And that is the end of this video. I know it didn't seem like it because I'm gonna edit the shit out of this but it was very long-winded and I messed up a few times, but you know what, we move. Yeah, that was my video on parasocial relationships. I hope you liked it. I don't know what my next video is going to be, honestly. I said that I was going to do Camp Rock at some point, but that was like 5 videos ago and here we are. But thank you so much. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.